major political storm is brewing. Did a key advisor sabotage a high-profile spy case against two men accused of working for China? The answer, according to the Education Secretary, is a firm no, but the opposition isn't buying it. Just recently, charges against Christopher Cash and Christopher Berry, both accused of spying for China, were dropped, sending shockwaves through Westminster. Both men maintain their innocence. The reason? According to the head of the Crown Prosecution Service, CPS, Stephen Parkinson, the government failed to provide crucial evidence demonstrating that China posed a national security threat during the relevant period 2021 to 2023. This lack of evidence, Parkinson stated, made it impossible to proceed with the trial. Now the conservatives are pointing fingers at Jonathan Powell, the Prime Minister's national security advisor, suggesting he deliberately withheld vital information from prosecutors. They've even called for his resignation if he's found to be responsible. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp minced no words, stating that ministers must urgently explain why they chose not to disclose information, proving China was a threat. Adding, "It looks as if Jonathan Powell was behind this decision, and he should resign if he is." Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson, however, has denied Powell's involvement, assuring the public that he had no conversations regarding the substance or evidence of the case. She expressed the government's disappointment that the case didn't proceed, deferring to the CPS to explain the reasons behind the failed prosecution. But here's where it gets controversial. Several former conservative ministers and advisors are claiming that a document exists containing hundreds of examples of Chinese activity posing a threat to the UK during the alleged period of espionage. They argue this evidence could have been presented, citing the hack on the Ministry of Defense, suspected to be the work of Chinese actors, as just one example. One source from the previous government stated bluntly, "I don't think there is a sane jury in the world that would look at that evidence and conclude China was not a threat." Adding fuel to the fire, former MI5 head Ken McCallum publicly stated in 2023 that there had been a sustained campaign of Chinese espionage on a pretty epic scale. These statements, along with the alleged document, raise serious questions about why the CPS wasn't provided with this information. The Prime Minister has defended the government's position, stating they could only rely on the previous Conservative government's policy, which designated China an epoch-defining challenge. He emphasized that prosecutions must be based on the circumstances at the time of the alleged offense. And this is the part most people miss. The Official Secrets Act requires prosecutors to prove that the information passed on was useful to an enemy. To secure a conviction in a spying case, if the government couldn't definitively demonstrate that China was considered an enemy at the time, the case would indeed be difficult to win. The Liberal Democrats are seizing on the situation to criticize the government's overall approach to China, arguing that it's putting national security at risk. They're urging the government to block the planning application for a new Chinese embassy in London, claiming it would enable Chinese espionage on an industrial scale. So, what really happened? Was evidence deliberately withheld, and if so, why? Was it a matter of bureaucratic oversight or something more sinister? And perhaps the biggest question of all, what should our relationship with China be? And how do we balance economic opportunities with national security concerns? Is designating China a formal threat the right approach, or are there more nuanced ways to manage the relationship? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.